YouTube and welcome to another video. So today we're finally gonna be talking about the reboot, and today we're gonna talk about the dark blue marks in the original and the reboot specifically. Now, I asked you guys over on YouTube whether or not you would like me to do one really long video on my thoughts on the reboot, or whether you'd like me to do many specific videos. And on YouTube, the many specific videos option won by a lot, like 73%. But I asked the same question over on Tumblr as well, and over there, the one really long video option won. So it kind of evens out. There were actually more votes over on Tumblr, but I feel like I don't actually get that many views from Tumblr, even though I cross-post all of my posts there as well. In both cases, there was one person who thought here on YouTube, they said that I should do a few episodes at a time and specific topics to go into more detail about. And on Tumblr, someone suggested that I do one video on every episode, and I think one video on every episode is a little bit too much. But I think a few episodes at a time might actually be a good approach, but I feel like maybe I don't have as much to say about all of the episodes. So because the feelings were kind of split, I'm gonna go with the many specific topics. It's also because it's the option that I personally prefer, and it just makes sense to me. But I am gonna talk a little bit about how I feel about the reboot in general here as well, just to give you guys a little bit of context. So today we're gonna be comparing the dark blue marks. I'm gonna refer to the original series as the original and to the reboot as a reboot. And I just want to say that in general, about Reboot's pacing to me is awful. It feels so rushed, especially in places where they are retelling parts of the original story. Like in the first episode of the original series is summarized in 4 minutes in the reboot. Like pretty much on like 4.5 minutes we already get into the second episode territory, and I feel the same way about a lot of these episodes that are using arcs from the original. Like Stella's ring thing took like maybe half an episode even, or one episode. So it's similar with the Dark Bloom arc. And I feel like because the pacing of the series is so off, often things don't have the same kind of weight or impact. And I also feel like the animation style is just boring and uninspired, and the whole series feels visually more boring. Not only is the animation style that much less inspired and that much less original, but it's also just visually more boring. Like the way Winx Club used to visually show like nightmares and the girls. Yeah, like nightmares used to be very interesting, and a very interesting way to talk about the inner world of the Winx. And like the impactful moments used to be very visually beautiful and interesting, and they would hold. Then in the reboot, like a lot of things are just said, they're just mentioned, and then they're brushed off. So I feel like it's just visually more boring as well. But let's talk about the dark blue mark specifically now. I was actually really surprised that they're gonna do the dark blue mark, and I feel like the dark blue mark is fan service, and I feel like a lot of the things in this reboot are fan service, and not necessarily even in a bad way. Like I think Rainbow is saying that, oh, these are the things that fans are definitely gonna wanna see, so these are the things that we should include in the story. And sometimes these are very rushed, and that's the problem I have with it, but I don't have the problem with the fact that it's trying to appeal to fans. And I think this series is trying to appeal to both newer fans and older fans, and I don't mind that at all. I know some people mind that, I don't mind that at all. I think it's great when a show tries to appeal to both demographics, and I think that they are really trying to do that here. So I do feel like this new dark blue mark is fan service, because Rainbow doesn't exist in a vacuum. So they have probably seen how much Dark Winx content there is on YouTube, or just in the fandom in general, how well it does. Like I have talked about it in my videos, that Dark Winx content tends to do a lot better than Winx content in general. Some of my most viewed stuff is about the Dark Winx content. Is that why I'm doing this as my first reboot video? Maybe. So as with a lot of the other arcs that they have taken from the original series, it feels very rushed. The dark blue mark in the reboot is completely completely different story-wise. I do really think that they just added the dark blue mark because they know how popular dark bloom as a character is, and they were like, well, we need to have dark bloom in this. But I was actually pleasantly surprised that they did a dark blue mark at all, because the dark blue mark in the original, I would not call it controversial, but I would call it really dark. It is really, really dark, and it spans out, and there's a lot of tension. There are several episodes in which Dark Bloom appears. She appears in the season finale, which might happen here. We haven't gotten the season finale yet, but I don't think it's gonna happen here. I think here the Dark Blue Mark is a contained one episode, one-off thing. But the Dark Blue Mark was very dark in the original, and it's actually really uncomfortable to watch when you watch it as an adult. So the Dark Blue Mark in the original is really, really dark, with Professor Avalon manipulating Bloom, and it is very clearly told like a dark story, but it is very, very dark in the original. So I was honestly genuinely thinking that they're not gonna have the balls to do this arc again. And I was kind of right, because this arc is completely different from the arc in the original, but they did do it, and I'm actually happy for it. I do think that this is completely fan service, as I've mentioned, but I don't mind it. I think that they were smart enough to know that we need to have Dark Bloom in this reboot, and let's do it differently. And I do think that it's really cool that Bloom gets a whole new casual outfit as Dark Bloom. I really, really, really don't like how in this new reboot, the witches and fairies are sort of separated based on outfits. Like, you can always tell based on outfits whether someone is good or evil. When they're being put to the test to see if they're a fairy or a witch, you can instantly tell who's going to be a witch and who's going to be a fairy. There's no actual tension, and I hate the sort of implication that only evil people wear this sort of punk or gothic outfits. I really, really hate it as someone who wears a lot of alternative fashion. I also think it sends a really weird message to kids. If we are talking about this as a kids show, I don't think it's good to put in this message that people who wear dark clothes are inherently dark, because that's just not true. I'm hoping that kids are not gonna watch that and think that and internalize that, but I don't really like it that they have this idea that people who wear these darker clothes are darker and people who wear lighter clothes are better people, because that's just a horrible message, right? It's especially weird because at one point they do try to establish that fairies and witches should get along and aren't inherently evil or inherently bad, but then at the same time they do nothing with it and do seem to imply that witches are evil. And like in the original, yes, witches did used to wear also like more punkish, more this sort of badass kind of clothing, but I feel like it was less pronounced. It was less emphasized somehow. It feels really emphasized in this new version, and I don't like it. I also think that this dark Bloom outfit reminds me of Shady Bog from the Ladybug and Cat Noir special, the dark marionette version. I do think that because the new Wings Club art style is also a little bit too similar to Miraculous and Miraculous's art style, then this Dark Bloom feels even more like a ripoff of the Dark Marionette, like a budget version of that version of Marionette. That all being said, I actually love this outfit. I would 100% like to cosplay it. It's 100% the kind of style that I would wear, and I think it looks really cool, and I really, really like it. I like the little blue streak. I think it's fun. Again, it just looks too much like the Miraculous design for Marinette to me, but I think it looks cool still. Like, I would happily cosplay this version of Dark Bloom. And again, the only thing I don't really like is this implication that people who are evil wear darker clothing. I know that it exists in the original as well, but it feels really pronounced in this version of the series. So in this version of the Dark Bloom arc, Vexius sort of manipulates and tricks Bloom and then uses dark magic to turn Bloom dark, and it's very one note. It's very simple. The storytelling is very simple. He uses some dark magic and then Bloom is dark, and her transformation isn't like gradual. Like the original series takes a lot more time to tell the story. Again, this is again the issue of pacing. In the original, there are several times where Bloom turns dark and she turns back and she tries to fight against it, and they get rid of her dark Bloomness, and then in the final it happens again thanks to Lord Darker. Like here it very much feels like a one-off thing, and the storyline is very simplistic. Vexius turns Bloom dark, then Bloom is instantly dark, then they discover that Bloom hesitates when she's about to kill Musa, and they're like, the good Bloom is still in there, let's try and save her, and they save her, and they save her by holding hands and thinking of the good memories that they have of Bloom. And this entire final solution I don't like for several reasons. First, in the original series, a Dark Bloom happens in season 2. In here, it happens on episode 7. So when they're thinking back on their good memories with Bloom, I feel like Tekna is the only one that actually has an impactful moment with Bloom. I actually love that moment Tekna has with Bloom earlier on, and she feels like the only one who has that really impactful moment with Bloom to think about. And for a lot of other them, they're just like things we did together once. It doesn't really feel like Bloom has been in their hearts and they really have strong positive feelings about Bloom, because they've only had 6 episodes to establish the girls' friendship and they haven't had time to do that, and it doesn't feel super well established. And I also think that it's just really cliche that they're like, the good Bloom is still in there, Bloom, fight. I mean, that's so cliched, and that is kind of what happens in the original as well. That moment is there in the original as well, when Sky is like, hey Bloom, here, I know you're still in there, I love you. But it feels a little bit more impactful in that finale than it does here. The entire storyline of Dark Bloom just feels very, very simplistic, very like one-off. It's not like this one big thing that builds up tension and comes back in the final. I don't know, maybe it does come back in the final because I haven't seen the finale yet, but I'm like almost certain that they're not gonna bring it back. If they are, I'm just gonna eat my words and I'll be pleasantly surprised. But it feels really superficial, the entire storyline. A bad creepy older guy turns Bloom bad, which similar to the original actually, and then Bloom is instantly bad, and then her friends use the power of friendship to turn her good again, and everything gets sorted in like 20 minutes, and it doesn't feel as impactful. One thing I did want to talk about that they gave us is the Dark Bloom transformation. I think this is like 100% fan service. I have talked about it, that we were robbed, and I think a lot of us have wished for a Dark Bloom transformation. A lot of us have made fan work. There are loads of fan versions of Dark Bloom transformations, and they gave us that, and I'm really happy that they did. I do like that it is like an alternative version of her transformation. It uses the same themes, the same movements, but her expressions are completely different. She looks sinister, she looks completely different. It's the same designs, but with different colors. And the music is different too. There's an original score to this. I'm not a big fan of the music in the reboot, but I like that they gave Bloom an original score, and I like that they did this storyline. Is it as interesting and captivating as it was in the original series? No, but I was pretty certain that they're not gonna do it at all, because it's such a complicated, such a tenuous, such a delicate topic. And I was pretty sure that they're not gonna go there because the original storyline is so dark. So I was happy that they went there at all. I'm happy that we got a transformation. I do like Dark Bloom's looks. I think the story is very flat, very boring, very cliched. For this one episode specifically, I think this does happen with other episodes as well, but it's not my overall appraisal of the reboot as a whole. I think the pacing is rushed, which is a thing I think about the reboot as a whole as well. But overall, I'm glad that we got a Dark Bloom episode at all. It wasn't the best episode, but I think it worked as fan service for me, that I was just happy to have Dark Bloom, to have Dark Bloom's transformation, and I would be happy if Dark Bloom came back in the final, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So this was a sort of introductory video to the Winx Club reboot series, which I'm probably gonna do. I'm probably gonna talk about different themes, and maybe I'll do something that talks about my feelings about the reboot in general once the entirety of the reboot is out, because right now we only have these 14 episodes. So let me know how you feel about the new Dark Bloom transformation, how you feel about the new Dark Bloom, and let me know in the comments below. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you enjoyed this one, then make sure to like and subscribe, check out some of my other stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!